The reason why you clicked onto this video is because you have this feeling that there's something greater inside of you. Something greater than just living the repetitive cycle of wake up, going to school, eat, sleep, and then repeat all that over again. No matter where you are in this journey of life, it doesn't matter. Because by the end of this video, you'll be able to get a better picture on how to actually create a fulfilled life. And this is something that no one talks about in this space. Either you have the people who smells that there's something fishy going on with this generation of ours, and something big is about to happen, but they don't know what it is or when it's going to happen or how it's going to take place. Or you have the other people trying to sell you their tool or business model or whatever solution, trying to make a quick buck out of you. And I've personally been through this myself after purchasing more than 5 different community memberships from different influencers online. But let me just give you a sneak peek and tell you that the solution that you're finding for a fulfilled life does not require any money. Everyone can activate this tool at any time they want, even right now. For the longest time, I thought life purpose was something that I've defined. I thought it was something laying out there that's waiting for me to capture, waiting for me to conquer in the outer world. I mean, we see it in our everyday lives, from our parents going to work and making money, and our friends talking about their careers. For myself personally, my past 3 teenage years were spent in the hustle culture, where I thought life was solely building startups and making a fuck ton of money. And yeah, there were moments when things were going great. For example, flying back to 3 years ago, my 14-year-old self would experience the biggest shock in his life when the second video that he posted blew up and got more than 30,000 views in his first 10 days. Like, can you imagine how crazy someone would go from averaging barely any views and having no subs to hundreds of subs in just more than a week? And I was 14. And afterwards, I just got addicted to the algorithm and the views, which kept me in the cycle of posting more and more content. And fast forward to a year later, YouTube sends me a monthly report, and I get a congratulations notification for crossing 4,000 subscribers. And I check my YouTube AdSense, and there was my $50 for the month. And then I remember one day, the core game that my channel was on, FIFA Mobile, they were announcing a rebrand to EA Sports FC, which meant that the game would get a whole redesign and whole repackage. This news really made me, for the first time, seriously think about the future of my channel. And after doing some research on how much the average FIFA creator made back then, and you can probably guess it, not a lot, I knew that this was just not it for me. There was no way that I'm going to become a millionaire with that channel. And fast forward to today, we're starting to see so many creators speaking out on this issue, on whether or not we're actually doing something for the algorithm or for genuine authenticity. Most notably, I remember watching Jack Pigot's video on his announcement to take a break from posting videos just a couple months ago. So going back to the question which brought you and I to this video in the first place. What is even our life purpose? Or to begin with, do we even have a purpose in this life? And to fully grasp the answer that you've been looking for, I've got to first give you some context on how I came to these conclusions. You see, the beginning of February 2025 was a very interesting period in my life. Traveling back then, it's been around 4 months since I've left my agency, which was on track to hit 7 figures by the end of 2024. And I also made a separate video explaining why I made that decision, but just to summarize it for you guys here, I just felt like I wasn't growing. And more importantly, I just didn't feel fulfilled with the work that I'm doing. And so, after being unemployed for a while, I stumbled upon Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income course. And his course was no different from the 4 other courses that I brought previously. And I decided to grind the course out, hoping to level up my YouTube skills. Who could have knew that one of the exercises in this course, researching creators in your chosen niche, which was as cliche as it sounds, but I remember it so deeply and so well, would literally change the trajectory of my life. One of the channels I was researching happened to be Leo Gura from actualize.org. And his content stood out to me a lot. You know, like most of his videos were an hour or 2 hours long, which was completely different from the typical short videos that you watch on YouTube. And most importantly, his videos was around this concept of self-actualization, which refers to the higher needs that human can evolve to through satisfying their lower needs first in order to achieve our maximum potential as a human being. And you probably heard me pause in the term right there, but that phrase, maximum potential as a human being, it really stood out to me. Like, at first I thought building startups and doing all of these self-improvement habits, like cold showers and doing this routine, was already the peak that there was with living a top 1% life, right? But I was wrong. And from that moment onwards, I began to religiously study the way of living and applying different concepts of self-actualization into my own life and being aware of the different transformations in my life. And oh my, just looking back, I've never experienced this much growth in my life. And I literally feel like I found all of the answers to most of the problems that I was facing back then, which I don't feel anymore. And that was also one of the main reasons why I'm starting this series called Awakened Teens. Just to give you 3 examples of some of the problems that I was facing back then. One of the huge ones was I used to feel super tired all the time during every single moment of the day. And yeah, even though I got like 8 hours of sleep, as they say, like the minimum amount of sleep, and sometimes actually more, I I still felt tired during the day, and I didn't know why. But then through self-actualization habits, it really helped me remove all of the bullshit from my head and all of the things that mentally drain you, like all of the negative beliefs and everything like that, which made my body feel much sharper and focus on whatever I'm doing. And that eventually restored my energy levels. And another huge transformation that this process had brought me was something that a lot of my friends laugh at when they hear about this, but I didn't really understand the females in my school. And I was a super shy and introverted kid back then, and I thought rizzing was impossible for me because it was all about the talent and having good looks and being the hottest guy in the room. But I found that I was completely wrong. Yes, good looks and rizzing talent is part of the process. However, it's more important to just realize and understand how biologically attraction works. This is one of the big things I realized with self-actualization, which is developing this understanding for different things and different perspectives. And then through that, I realized that all of the pain that was happening in my life was actually not pain, but it was a necessary part of my growth. Because I remember back then, I would have this period where I just constantly felt depressed, and I would cry myself in my room and constantly ask the question, why was I doing the things I was doing? Why am I taking the harder path? Why am I facing all of these pain? But then once I start to realize that pain is part of the evolution process, I began to actually release these pain, right? Release the need of constantly thinking about these pain, and instead growing out of them and proceeding in life, which helped me get started in so many different things and get unstuck. And all this might sound like super big problems that you think is impossible to solve. But really, I've been in the same exact spot as you. I know how mentally fucked the world is right now because there's just so much shit that we have to deal with, right? And just to bring up school in general, we're mentally programmed around us to feel this level of FOMO, fear of missing out, with all the different things that seem super shallow to us. For example, those friends who were talking about the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, we feel like we have to go into these conversations. Or maybe it's the TikTok trend, having to follow your friends create these videos and watch them scroll through reels. And I know how it can feel at times, feeling stuck in this loop or feeling pressured to do these shallow things. But let's pause for a second and take a deep breath. Everything will be okay, right? You know, only until recently have I discovered that we're actually such a lucky generation. And even though it seems like we focus on all of these negative things that are happening in our lives and the chaos everywhere in the world, why we're lucky is that we actually have all the resources that we need to turn things around. And that's exactly what I've been doing for the past 6 months. Actually, more than 6 months now, probably nearly a year. I've dedicated every single day studying over 200 hours of content while reading book after book after book and revisiting my journal entries from 3 years ago, over 400 entries, and speaking with countless individuals who were on this path on self-actualization and striving to live a more fulfilled life, and finding everything I can to really get this answer. And you know what the ironic thing is? The ironic thing is that after all this searching, I came to realize that the answer to this question of what makes us truly fulfilled does not come somewhere out there, but it's actually somewhere inside of us already. And the problem is that society puts so much conditioning and so much layering on us to the point where we forget who we actually genuinely are on the inside. Before you disregard this idea, just really take a moment and tolerate. Think about it. I want to do a really quick, simple exercise. Think back to a moment when you're young, like somewhere around 8 to 12 years old, and someone was giving you a compliment when you're doing some sort of activity. And that could be from drawing to maybe talking about dinosaurs or singing a song or building Lego or whatever activity. Maybe it's hard to remember because even for me, it took quite a while to think about these moments, as we normally turn on our humble selves and disregard it, right? We say things like, what are you talking about? I mean, my singing is so bad. Look at that guy. He's singing way better than me, and yada, 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 right? Whenever people compliment us. And actually, for a second, if you think about this, the more and more we say this to ourselves, the more and more we're programming our brains to actually believe what we're saying is true. When in reality, that is your natural gift right there. This is the thing that makes you feel most fulfilled in life, right? You know, when I look back at my childhood and the moments when I was playing match attacks and football cards, I was a huge collector back then. You start to feel this sense of joy again. You know, like no matter how old you are, this joy is always inside of you. Like just think back to a moment when you revisited a childhood memory or a childhood place, right? And smelling that familiar smell or feeling this texture just brought back so much joy inside of you. What's actually happening is that there's something that makes you feel attracted to this activity, which automatically programs your body to continue playing around with it when you were a child. And the problem with modern society when we grow up is that we tend to forget these moments, right? Because there's so much work and so many things to care about. And we only, at most, like briefly acknowledge it as a hobby without taking it seriously. But what if we actually spent some time to look back at these moments and think about what made them special? Why am I attracted to football cards and not something else like playing with dinosaurs? Why do I like doing this thing more than doing that thing? Is there something deeper that I can use to help inform me on activities that makes me fulfilled? Because if you really think about it, we're all distinct and unique individuals. There are some things inside our genetics right now that are making us humans, right? Humans that cannot be replicate of each other. And don't worry if you're sitting there still trying to think about what this thing is in your childhood, right? Because I've been thinking about this ever since 3 years ago. I've been thinking about what actually makes you feel fulfilled. And man, like, I'm just so excited to share everything that I've learned throughout these years, so then you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. So then you can use me as a stepping stone to your journey in living an extremely fulfilled life. The first step to this awakening journey is to ask yourself whether or not you're ready to open your mind to this new way of living. This new way of living that actually stems from your higher self. Because if you think about your lifestyle right now, are you deeply fulfilled? Do you find the things that you're doing meaningful? And most likely, if you watch till this part of the video, the answer may not be a solid yes. And what that means is that we need to change things. We need to transform things. And only through transformation are you able to get a new result. Can you really feel that there's something greater inside of you ready to be unleashed, ready to be acknowledged right now? And are you ready to feel like a child again? Feel like you have control over what's happening with the world, doing the things that you like, and not only like, but deeply find joy in, rather than having the world control you all the time. And just by planting this seed and this picture in your head and this imagination that this higher self exists, this will already pull yourself towards this higher self significantly, because you recognize that there's something there, right? Rather than completely shutting it off, which we're programmed to do. So really, I want you to spend tonight, or if it's already night for you, spend the next night just thinking about how this higher self will look. How you'll actually feel inside when you live a deeply aligned and fulfilled life. And no worries if you don't know about the how yet, because the first step of any journey is knowing the what you want. And you know what you want. You want a fulfilling life. Welcome to Awakened Teens. Happy New Year, guys. I look forward to making this year an amazing year and really transform your lives with this work. And catch you guys very soon in the next one. Peace out.